Hi, I'm Jon Velie, CEO of OnlineVisas, and welcome to another episode of Practicing Law in a Hawaiian Shirt. It's Friday! Woohoo! And this episode of Practicing Law in a Hawaiian Shirt is brought to you by Bud Light. We're still waiting for Bud Light to pay for any of these episodes, but we're still enjoying the beer. This one's a little warm because I've been drinking it for a while. And if you think I'm a little shiny today, and I'm feeling a little shiny, that's because I had lunch with my daughter, Chloe, today at Tawan Thai. And they asked me my spicy level. And I haven't eaten at Tawan a lot. I eat at my favorite restaurant in the world, Thai Thai. And I asked for the spicy 4. And she just looked at me like, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah, I can handle the spicy 4. Well, ever since then, I have been on fire. And so I've been guzzling down Bud Light and practicing on a Hawaiian Shirt, and it seems to be working out all right. So in any case, let's get right into it. First, in immigration news. So yesterday was a really big day as USCIS and my good friends at ITServe Alliance settled their issues over the staffing company and H-1B denials that have been happening since the Trump administration has taken over. There was a big memo that came out in 2018 that dealt with contracts and itineraries, and it really made all these additional things that staffing companies in particular had to deal with on H-1Bs that didn't exist in the regulations. Now, it's not limited to H-1B immigration. This has really been across the board in a lot of these merit-based work visas. And a lot of that, I can tell you, you can go back to the architects of this. There's Stephen Miller and Stephen Bannon, who came in and said, immigration bad. But more than that was Chuck Grassley. And Chuck Grassley has been a real opponent to legal immigration. And you can see that in all the bills that he introduced from 2010 through 2017 to reform the H-1B and the L-1 visa. And he's also been a staunch opponent to the EB-5 investment visa. So a number of his staffers have been working in the Trump administration in policy. What they couldn't pass through in legislation, they've been doing in policy. Well, one of their key pieces of policy was this memorandum. And a good friend of mine, John Wasden, who did an excellent job. I was part of the ITServe Political Action Committee to select John. He won some really big lawsuits in March. One is called ITServe Alliance versus CISNA. Francis CISNA. I sat on a panel with Francis for the Sports Lawyers Association years ago. Decent guy, but Francis was part of the team that did this. He's been replaced by Ken Cuccinelli, and these are sort of the the policy makers. These are these are the pointed heads of USCIS under the Trump administration. Policy's been hard on it. This administration has been hard on H-1Bs. So a big victory in these court cases. And just yesterday, Wasden and his group settled the case with USCIS, and they're repealing the memo, and they're going to deal with all the cases that were brought under it, and we're going to have a much cleaner way. You just need to prove that you're going to be working in whatever you're asked for, you'll get in the 3 years instead of having to show a day-to-day schedule and itinerary where these workers are going to work. So huge victory in immigration. But as we said yesterday, before the ink is even dry, the presidential proclamation that was passed last month has a 30-day report, which comes out, is due tomorrow, Saturday, that 3 agencies are to report to the president what is the impact of non-immigrant visas on U.S. workers. Now, during the coronavirus, we're looking at a 14.5 unemployment rate. That's higher than the Great Depression. And immigration's a political football. Nobody, this is a surprise to no one. And the tactic that the Trump administration is using is to blame foreigners for the coronavirus, to blame China for the coronavirus, and to blame foreigners that should not be able to take American jobs, right? Now, it's not always that simple. And we may not see an impact on these merit-based visas because companies are relying on them. And companies that have a foreign worker or numerous foreign workers to get their jobs done to compete are trying to survive during this really, really tough time. This is a government-impacted shutdown. Our economy is shut down because of the government has done this because of the coronavirus. Not saying that that's a wrong thing, it's the right thing to do, but it's happening. And to tell, for the government to tell you who you can employ and who you can't employ is really an undue infringement, right? I mean, we don't want to have the government that restrictive over how our companies work. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out. So we might see politically a pushback. There's some press that comes out on this sort of situation. Now, the ITServe Alliance thing is not a political deal. It wasn't like strung up by Democrats against Republicans or anything like that. It was a practical solution where a government agency was acting beyond the regulations they're supposed to act, and they're just being repealed back. Now, that happens every day in lots of different agencies, right? Where someone is, are they polluting? Are they not polluting? And the EPA goes through that. Is it a securities violation or not a securities violation in some trading things? This is pretty boring stuff for the run-of-the-mill thing, but immigration is red meat. And politicians will use it to throw out to their base. Now, the Trump administration knows this, right? That's one of the planks that Donald Trump ran on last election and who run for re-election. However, what he did was really interesting, and that was he tweeted about, I'm going to stop immigration from coming into this country. Well, that's a state of art or a term of art, and it meant that we can just, stop green cards being filed outside the country. He accomplishes his goal. His group is happy, and we all go there. Now, that's different to say non-immigrant visas, and what that impact's going to have on our economy across the board. So we'll see what happens on that. So let's hope that it doesn't need any more political red meat to deal with that issue, and our companies are able to do what they need to survive in these difficult times. So on that, let's go into other things. Okay, so in our show, we like to talk about things outside of immigration. And what we've talked about has been during the coronavirus, all these interesting things that have been happening, right? So we found out that the CIA had released all sorts of previously secured documents. And we went over those a little while ago. And we found out that there was a lot of discussion about UFOs and that UFOs existed. And prior to that, the Pentagon said UFOs exist. Well, there's only one group that can operate a UFO, and that's aliens, right? So they didn't come out and say there are aliens, but how do you have UFOs without aliens? That's the question, right? Well, some news things are out. And so one of the great publications of our time, the New York Post, has reported that NASA scientists detect evidence of a parallel universe where time runs backwards. I kid you not. While you're sheltering in place, there's a parallel universe out there, and time is running backwards. And it's really interesting. So when did this happen? So I read through this article, and the simplest explanation, according to Yaron Steinbuch, is that the moment of the Big Bang, 13.8 billion years ago, two universes were formed. Ours, and one, from our perspective, is running in reverse with time going backwards. Well, once again, what an arrogant thing to say. We say their universe is running backwards. I guarantee you they say our universe is running backwards, right? I think that is just a very egocentric way to put about it. There are two universes in the world, ladies and gentlemen, according to the New York Post, that NASA has confirmed. One's going forward and one's going backwards. You know what that means? I mean, I had to put two and two together with the UFOs and aliens, but what it means is there's another you and me out there. One is getting older and one is getting younger. Now, I feel that I'm getting older, but am I? Am I really? I've been working out with my friend David Kelso. I'm feeling a little fitter than I ever have. Fitter than I was 10 years ago, that's for sure. So maybe I'm going backwards and the other Jon Velie is going forwards. Who knows? Maybe we go back and forth within our various universes and we don't even know it. Maybe we're coexisting. Maybe one's sitting on the other side of this camera. Maybe the other Jon Velie's watching me in a Hawaiian shirt. Or what is the opposite of a Hawaiian shirt? I don't know. These are good questions. I don't have all the answers, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just raising the questions. Is there a parallel universe? New York Post says yes. But Jamie Carter said, not so fast, my friends. Jamie Carter has said that, has NASA found a parallel universe where time flows backwards? The truth behind the headlines. Now, Jamie Carter is a senior contributor in science from Forbes. So we have a dueling scenario here between Forbes and the New York Post. Now, I'm not here to pass judgment on which publication is better, Forbes or the New York Post, but the Forbes says, to be clear, there is zero evidence of what and they're quoting the Daily Star. The Daily Star is on the same side as the New York Post. There is zero evidence of what the Daily Star says is a parallel universe right next to ours, where all the rules of physics seem to be operating in reverse. They're just saying, nope, no way. But as I was reading that, you ever read through that? They have a blurb to another one. So the Forbes is like, we're not a New York Post. We're not shock media. But what was their article? The sun is asleep. The sun is asleep. Deep solar minimum feared as 2020 sees record-setting 100-day slump. 2020, we've been into 60 days into coronavirus, and I guess, China farther into that. So while the world's in the coronavirus, the sun went asleep. And what are they saying about this? And they even say that while we on Earth suffer from the coronavirus, our star, the sun, as if we didn't know that, is having a lockdown of its own. Spaceweather.com reports that already there have been 100 days in 2020 where our sun has displayed 0 sunspots. Not one sunspot. 0 in 100 days. So also note this, there's a safety note in here, because the first thing you want to do is go check it out, right? I mean, I know I do. It says, note, never look at the sun with the naked eye or through binoculars or a telescope that aren't fitted with solar filters. So while the sun may be asleep, don't look at it. That's what they're saying here. So that's what we got. So here's Forbes saying, scoff, scoff, Daily Mail, scoff, scoff, New York Post, parallel universe. But they're out with news that the sun is asleep. How about that? I'm Jon Velie, CEO of OnlineVisas, where we deliver dreams one visa at a time. If you like this, go like it, share it. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for more immigration news and input, we are launching a new show next week called Jon Velie, Voice of Immigration. So we'd love to get you your feedback on that. Really appreciate you. Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Salutes to all our soldiers, our warriors out there. All Zamani Zuma, my friends. Take care.